Our Father in heaven, something inside you has been hurting for a long time, and maybe nobody knows it. You kept going. You kept smiling. You kept pretending you were strong enough to carry everything alone. But deep inside, there is a part of your soul that feels exhausted. A quiet pain that follows you into the night. A heaviness that appears when the world becomes silent and your thoughts begin speaking louder than your faith. And the hardest part is that sometimes you do not even know how to explain what you feel anymore. You pray, but your heart still feels restless. You try to stay strong, but your spirit feels tired. You ask God for peace, yet your mind keeps fighting invisible battles. But listen carefully to this moment, because there is a reason if this prayer found you today, not by accident, not by coincidence. There are seasons when God reaches people through a simple message, a simple prayer, a simple moment that changes something deep inside them forever. And maybe this is your moment. Maybe heaven saw the tears you never showed anyone. Maybe God heard the prayers you could not even put into words. Maybe your soul has been crying for healing while your lips stayed silent. The Gospel according to Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verses 28 through 30, says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That invitation still exists today. This prayer is not here to impress you. It is here to reach the broken places inside you that nobody else can touch. Before this prayer ends, something inside your heart may begin to breathe again. The fear you carried may begin losing its power. The emptiness inside you may no longer feel so heavy. Stay here. Do not leave this moment too quickly, because the next words may be exactly what your soul has been needing to hear. The silent cry hidden behind your smile. There are wounds people cannot see. Some pains never appear on the outside. They hide behind forced smiles, quiet conversations, busy routines, and the constant attempt to look fine in front of everyone else. And maybe that is exactly where you are right now. You wake up every day trying to act normal while something inside you feels like it is slowly breaking apart. You laugh when people expect you to laugh. You answer, "I'm okay," because explaining the truth feels too exhausting. But when the night comes and everything becomes quiet, your soul starts speaking again. That silent cry inside you has been growing for a long time. It is the cry of emotional exhaustion, the cry of disappointment, the cry of feeling abandoned in moments when you needed love the most, the cry of carrying battles nobody ever stopped long enough to notice. And what hurts the most is not always the pain itself. Sometimes, what hurts the most is feeling like nobody truly understands what you are carrying inside your heart. But God understands. Even when people misunderstand your silence, heaven does not. Even when others only see your strength, God sees the weight behind your smile. The book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18, says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That means your brokenness does not push God away. It pulls him closer. Right now, while you listen to this prayer, something important is happening inside you. Walls you built to survive are beginning to crack. Emotions you buried deeply are starting to rise to the surface. Not to destroy you, but to heal you. Because healing often begins the moment a soul stops pretending it is not hurting. And in the next part of this prayer, you will understand why the exhaustion inside your spirit may be connected to something much deeper than stress or sadness. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. Why your soul feels tired even when your body keeps going. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. You can rest your body for hours and still wake up feeling empty. You can continue working, talking, helping others, and surviving every responsibility around you, while something inside your spirit keeps losing strength little by little. That is because the soul also becomes tired. A tired soul is not always loud. Sometimes it appears quietly through constant overthinking, emotional numbness, lack of peace, fear about the future, or the strange feeling that you are disconnected from yourself and from God. And many people carry this condition for years without realizing what is happening inside them. They keep functioning while their inner world slowly collapses. Maybe you have reached moments where your mind feels crowded, but your heart feels empty. Moments where you pray but feel distant. Moments where you want peace so badly, yet anxiety keeps pulling your thoughts into darkness. This happens when the soul has been carrying too much weight without healing. The Gospel, according to Jesus Christ, in the book of John, chapter 14, verse 27 says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." The peace God offers is different from temporary comfort. It reaches places inside you that human distractions can never heal. And maybe your soul is tired because it has been trying to survive without receiving the spiritual rest your heart desperately needs. You were not created to carry fear every day. You were not created to live imprisoned by anxiety. You were not created to feel emotionally abandoned while pretending to be strong for everyone around you. God never asked you to destroy yourself while trying to survive life. Right now, this prayer is beginning to uncover the real source of the heaviness inside you. And what comes next may reveal why the battles you fight at night feel stronger when nobody else is around. Why your soul feels tired even when your body keeps going. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. You can rest your body for hours and still wake up feeling empty. You can continue working, talking, helping others, and surviving every responsibility around you, while something inside your spirit keeps losing strength little by little. That is because the soul also becomes tired. A tired soul is not always loud. Sometimes it appears quietly through constant overthinking, emotional numbness, lack of peace, fear about the future, or the strange feeling that you are disconnected from yourself and from God. And many people carry this condition for years without realizing what is happening inside them. They keep functioning while their inner world slowly collapses. Maybe you have reached moments where your mind feels crowded, but your heart feels empty. Moments where you pray but feel distant. Moments where you want peace so badly, yet anxiety keeps pulling your thoughts into darkness. This happens when the soul has been carrying too much weight without healing. The Gospel, according to Jesus Christ, in the book of John, chapter 14, verse 27 says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." The peace God offers is different from temporary comfort. It reaches places inside you that human distractions can never heal. And maybe your soul is tired because it has been trying to survive without receiving the spiritual rest your heart desperately needs. You were not created to carry fear every day. You were not created to live imprisoned by anxiety. You were not created to feel emotionally abandoned while pretending to be strong for everyone around you. God never asked you to destroy yourself while trying to survive life. Right now, this prayer is beginning to uncover the real source of the heaviness inside you. And what comes next may reveal why the battles you fight at night feel stronger when nobody else is around. The night battles nobody knows you fight. There are battles that become stronger after midnight. During the day, noise distracts you. Conversations, responsibilities, notifications, work, routines. Everything keeps your mind occupied long enough to avoid certain feelings. But when the night arrives and silence fills the room, the thoughts you tried to escape begin returning one by one. That is when the hidden battles start speaking louder. The fear you buried during the day suddenly feels impossible to ignore. The memories you tried to forget begin replaying in your mind. The anxiety in your chest becomes heavier, and the loneliness feels deeper because nobody sees what is happening inside you. Some nights, your body feels tired, but your mind refuses to rest. Some nights, you stare into darkness while carrying questions you cannot answer. You wonder if things will ever change. You wonder if God still hears you. You wonder how much longer your heart can carry this invisible weight. And the hardest part is that most people around you have no idea how intense these silent battles have become. But God sees every moment. The book of Psalms, chapter 139, verses 11 and 12, says, "If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. Even in your darkest nights, God is present. He sees the tears nobody else sees. He hears the prayers that never leave your lips. He understands the emotional storms you hide behind your silence. And maybe tonight, God is bringing light into a place inside you that has felt dark for far too long. Because some battles are not meant to destroy you. Some battles reveal the exact place where healing needs to begin. And in the next part of this prayer, you will understand why this moment may not be random at all. There may be a reason heaven brought you here today. The prayer God was waiting for you to hear today. There are moments in life when a prayer arrives exactly when the soul can no longer carry the weight alone. Not weeks later, not months later, right now. You may have clicked on this video without thinking too much about it. Maybe you were searching for peace. Maybe you were simply trying to quiet your mind for a few minutes. But deep inside, something led you here. Because God knows how to reach people at the exact moment they need Him most. Sometimes He reaches a person through silence. Sometimes through pain. Sometimes through exhaustion. And sometimes through a prayer that feels as if heaven itself is speaking directly to the heart. This may be one of those moments for you. The book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you." Those words were not written for perfect people. They were written for tired people, for fearful people, for wounded people, for people who feel weak while trying to survive strong storms inside themselves. And maybe that is why this prayer found you today. Not because you are weak, but because your soul has been carrying pain for too long, without allowing God to fully enter the places that still hurt. There are moments when God interrupts a person's emotional darkness before it completely consumes them. Moments when heaven gently whispers, "You do not have to continue suffering in silence right now." While you listen, your heart may already be softening. The walls around your emotions may already be coming down, and the prayer you're about to hear may touch areas inside your soul that no human words have ever reached before. Because God does not only hear spoken prayers, He also hears exhausted hearts. And what comes next may uncover wounds inside you that have silently controlled your emotions for years without you realizing it. The hidden wounds that still control your emotions. Not every wound bleeds where people can see it. Some wounds hide inside memories, inside rejection, inside words that damaged your heart years ago, inside moments when you felt abandoned, unloved, betrayed, or forgotten. And even though time passed, the pain never completely left you. You learned how to function with it. You learned how to hide it. You learned how to smile while carrying emotional scars that still influence the way you think, feel, trust, and love. That is why certain situations affect you more deeply than they should. That is why small disappointments sometimes reopen old pain. That is why your heart becomes guarded even when someone tries to care about you. Hidden wounds silently shape emotions. Many people believe they are simply too emotional or too sensitive, when in reality their soul is reacting to pain that was never healed properly. The book of Psalms, chapter 147, verse 3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." Notice those words carefully. God does not ignore emotional wounds. He heals them. But healing begins when you stop pretending the pain no longer exists. Some of the heaviness you feel today may not only come from present struggles. It may come from years of accumulated sadness, disappointment, fear, and emotional survival. Maybe someone made you feel unwanted. Maybe someone broke your trust. Maybe life forced you to become emotionally strong before your heart was ready. And now your soul feels tired because it has been carrying unresolved pain for far too long. But this prayer is not here to shame your wounds. It is here to expose them to the light of God, so healing can finally begin. Because wounds hidden in darkness continue controlling emotions. But wounds placed before God begin losing their power. And in the next part of this prayer, you may recognize a heaviness inside your heart that you could never fully explain until now. When your heart becomes heavy, without explanation, there are days when sadness appears without warning. Nothing terrible happens, yet your heart feels heavy. You try to continue normally, but something inside you feels emotionally drained. Your mind becomes distant. Your spirit loses energy. Even simple moments begin to feel difficult. And the hardest part is not understanding why. You start questioning yourself. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I find peace? Why does this emptiness keep returning? What many people do not realize is that the soul can carry emotional burdens for so long that heaviness becomes normal. Pain settles quietly inside the heart until a person forgets what true inner peace even feels like. Sometimes the heaviness comes from disappointment that was never released. Sometimes from fear that slowly took control of your thoughts. Sometimes from carrying responsibilities while neglecting your own emotional healing. And sometimes it comes from spiritual exhaustion. The book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. An anxious heart becomes heavy over time. Fear steals emotional strength. Negative thoughts drain spiritual peace. Silent suffering slowly weakens hope. That is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. That is why you can smile publicly while privately feeling emotionally overwhelmed. But God sees the weight inside your heart, even when nobody else notices it. He knows the moments when your soul feels tired, for reasons you cannot explain. He knows the hidden fears you never speak aloud. He knows the emotional pressure you carry every single day. And right now, this prayer is reaching the exact place inside you where that heaviness has been growing. Because God does not want you living trapped inside emotional darkness. There is a reason your heart is being confronted by these emotions today. And what comes next may be the beginning of heaven touching the broken places you thought would never heal. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. When your heart becomes heavy without explanation, there are days when sadness appears without warning. Nothing terrible happens, yet your heart feels heavy. You try to continue normally, but something inside you feels emotionally drained. Your mind becomes distant. Your spirit loses energy. Even simple moments begin to feel difficult. And the hardest part is not understanding why. You start questioning yourself. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I find peace? Why does this emptiness keep returning? What many people do not realize is that the soul can carry emotional burdens for so long that heaviness becomes normal. Pain settles quietly inside the heart until a person forgets what true inner peace even feels like. Sometimes the heaviness comes from disappointment that was never released. Sometimes from fear that slowly took control of your thoughts. Sometimes from carrying responsibilities while neglecting your own emotional healing. And sometimes it comes from spiritual exhaustion. The book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. An anxious heart becomes heavy over time." Fear steals emotional strength. Negative thoughts drain spiritual peace. Silent suffering slowly weakens hope. That is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. That is why you can smile publicly while privately feeling emotionally overwhelmed. But God sees the weight inside your heart even when nobody else notices it. He knows the moments when your soul feels tired for reasons you cannot explain. He knows the hidden fears you never speak aloud. He knows the emotional pressure you carry every single day. And right now, this prayer is reaching the exact place inside you where that heaviness has been growing. Because God does not want you living trapped inside emotional darkness. There is a reason your heart is being confronted by these emotions today. And what comes next may be the beginning of heaven touching the broken places you thought would never heal. The moment heaven begins touching your broken places, there comes a moment when healing no longer feels distant. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because something inside your soul begins changing. The pain that once felt unbearable starts losing strength. The fear that controlled your thoughts no longer feels as powerful. And for the first time in a long time, your heart begins sensing peace again. That moment often begins quietly. It begins when a tired soul stops running from God. It begins when a broken heart finally admits it cannot heal alone. It begins when heaven touches the places inside you that human strength could never restore. Right now, while you listen to this prayer, that moment may already be happening inside you. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 36, verse 26, says, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you." God specializes in restoring what pain tried to destroy. He restores hearts damaged by disappointment. He restores minds overwhelmed by fear. He restores souls exhausted by silent suffering. And maybe for a long time you believed your wounds had become too deep to heal. Maybe you convinced yourself that this sadness, this anxiety, this emotional emptiness would always remain part of your life. But God can enter places that darkness has occupied for years and still bring light. That is why this prayer matters. Because heaven is not only listening to your words right now, heaven is responding to the condition of your soul. Every tear you hid, every fear you carried, every sleepless night, every silent breakdown. God saw all of it, and He is not approaching your brokenness with condemnation. He is approaching it with compassion. Something powerful happens when a wounded heart allows God to enter fully. Emotional chains begin weakening. Spiritual heaviness begins lifting. The soul slowly remembers what hope feels like again. And in the next part of this prayer, you may discover that God understands parts of you that nobody around you has ever truly seen. Letting God enter the parts of you nobody understands. There are parts of you that remain hidden from everyone. The thoughts you never say out loud, the fears you disguise behind silence, the memories that still hurt when nobody is around, the emotional scars you learned to protect because you were afraid nobody would understand them. Many people know your name. Very few know your inner battles. And after a while, carrying everything alone begins changing the way a person lives. You stop opening your heart completely. You stop trusting easily. You become careful with your emotions because too many times your pain was misunderstood, ignored, or minimized. But God does not misunderstand wounded hearts. The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7 says, "People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." God sees beyond appearances. He sees the exhaustion hidden behind your strong moments. He sees the loneliness hidden behind your smile. He sees the emotional pressure you carry while trying to hold yourself together for everyone else. And the incredible thing is this: He still moves toward you with love. Not after you become perfect, not after you stop struggling, right now. Some people only love the version of you that looks strong. God also embraces the version of you that feels broken. That is why you do not need to hide from Him anymore. You do not need to hide your doubts. You do not need to hide your tears. You do not need to pretend you are emotionally fine while your soul quietly falls apart inside. God can handle the truth of your pain. And maybe this is the first moment in a long time where you're allowing yourself to become emotionally honest before heaven. Because true healing begins when the soul stops hiding. Right now, something deep inside you may already be softening. The emotional walls you built for protection may be losing strength. And what comes next may help you release fears you have carried for far too many years. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. Releasing the fear you have been carrying for too long. Fear becomes dangerous when it lives inside the soul for too long. At first it feels small, a quiet worry, a passing insecurity, a hidden concern about the future. But over time, fear grows. It begins controlling your thoughts before you even notice it. It steals your peace during quiet moments. It creates anxiety where hope used to exist. And eventually, it convinces you that something bad is always about to happen. Many people are no longer living with freedom. They are living in emotional survival mode. Fear tells you to expect disappointment. Fear tells you not to trust again. Fear tells you that healing will never happen. Fear tells you that you will always feel this exhausted, this anxious, this emotionally overwhelmed. But fear does not speak with the voice of God. The second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Notice that carefully. Fear weakens the mind. God restores the mind. Fear steals peace. God releases peace. Fear traps the soul inside darkness. God leads the soul back into light. And maybe the reason your heart has felt so heavy lately is because you have been carrying fears that were never meant to stay inside you this long. Fear about your future. Fear of losing people. Fear of failure. fear of not being enough, fear that your life will never truly change. But right now, this prayer is inviting you to release those fears into the hands of God. Not because everything will instantly become easy, but because you were never meant to fight every battle alone. There is freedom waiting on the other side of surrender. There is peace waiting beyond the fear that has controlled your emotions for years. And in the next part of this prayer, you will begin understanding how spiritual heaviness slowly drains peace from the soul without a person even realizing it. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. The spiritual weight that is draining your peace, not every burden, is physical. Some burdens sit quietly inside the soul, draining peace little by little, until a person no longer remembers what emotional rest feels like. You continue moving through life, but inside everything feels heavy. Your thoughts become louder, your patience becomes weaker, your heart becomes restless, even during moments that should feel calm. Spiritual heaviness works slowly. It builds through unresolved pain, through constant fear, through disappointment that was never released, through guilt that keeps returning every time you try to move forward. And after a while, the soul becomes exhausted from carrying emotions it was never meant to hold alone. That is why some people feel emotionally overwhelmed, even on peaceful days. The outside may look normal, while the inside feels chaotic. The book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22 says, "Cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you." God never asked you to carry every emotional weight by yourself. Yet many people spend years trying to survive through human strength alone. They carry pressure silently. They hide emotional exhaustion behind responsibility. They continue giving to others while their own inner world slowly empties. And eventually, peace disappears, not because God abandoned them, but because the soul became overloaded. Right now, maybe your spirit has been trying to tell you something your mind ignored for too long. Maybe this constant exhaustion, this emotional pressure, this heaviness in your chest has been a sign that your soul desperately needs restoration. God does not want your heart imprisoned by invisible burdens. He wants peace to return to your thoughts. He wants rest to return to your spirit. He wants light to enter the dark places where emotional heaviness has been growing silently inside you. And as this prayer continues, something deeper may begin happening within your soul, because the next part is where divine healing begins, reaching the pain you thought nobody could touch, allowing divine healing to reach your deepest pain. Some pain hides so deeply inside the heart that even you stop talking about it, not because it disappeared, but because carrying it became part of your life. You learned how to survive around the wound. You learned how to continue functioning while silently hurting. You learned how to distract yourself from the ache inside your soul. But deep pain does not disappear simply because it stays hidden. It continues affecting the way you think, the way you trust, the way you see yourself, the way you believe God sees you. And many people spend years asking God to change their circumstances, while the real healing needs to happen inside their heart first. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 14 says, "Heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved." That verse reveals something powerful. True healing does not begin through human effort alone. It begins when God touches the deepest places inside the soul. Places nobody else can reach. Places hidden beneath trauma, disappointment, rejection, guilt, and emotional exhaustion. Right now, while this prayer is speaking to your spirit, God may already be uncovering pain you buried long ago, not to shame you, not to reopen wounds without purpose, but to remove the darkness that has quietly lived there for too long. Because unhealed pain changes people. It makes them afraid of love, afraid of vulnerability, afraid of hope, afraid of believing life can become beautiful again. But God did not create your heart to live imprisoned by old wounds. There is healing available for the broken places inside you. There is restoration available for the exhausted parts of your soul. There is peace available for the mind that has lived under emotional pressure for far too long. And something important happens when divine healing begins entering the heart. The soul slowly stops identifying with pain. Fear begins losing control. Hope starts breathing again inside the spirit. And in the next part of this prayer, you may begin hearing the inner voice God has been trying to awaken within you all along. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. The inner voice that God is trying to awaken inside you for a long time. The noise around you may have been louder than the voice within you. The pressure, the fear, the opinions of people, the disappointments, the constant mental exhaustion. All of it slowly disconnected you from the quiet place where God speaks to the soul. Because God often speaks softly. Not through confusion, not through fear, not through panic. He speaks through conviction, through peace, through moments where the heart suddenly feels awakened again. But many people cannot hear that inner voice anymore because their soul has been overwhelmed for too long. The mind becomes crowded with anxiety. The heart becomes distracted by survival. And spiritual sensitivity slowly fades beneath emotional exhaustion. Still, God continues calling. The first book of Kings, chapter 19, verses 11 through 12, describes how the voice of God did not come through the violent wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but through a gentle whisper. That whisper still reaches hearts today. Maybe you felt it during certain quiet moments. Moments when something inside you told you not to give up. Moments when hope appeared even after intense emotional darkness. Moments when your spirit sensed there had to be more than pain, fear, and survival. That was not weakness. That was God reaching toward your soul. And perhaps this prayer is helping you hear that voice more clearly again. Not the voice of fear telling you that you are broken forever. Not the voice of shame telling you that your life cannot change. Not the voice of hopelessness trying to convince you that peace is impossible. But the voice of God reminding you that your story is not over. There is still purpose inside you. There is still light inside you. There is still healing moving toward you, even now. And the more your soul reconnects with the voice of God, the less power darkness keeps over your emotions. Because heaven never stopped speaking to you. The pain simply became too loud for a season. And in the next part of this prayer, you will begin understanding why this moment of connection with God can transform the entire atmosphere surrounding your life. Type 1 to write the next topic, or type the changes you want. Why this prayer can change the atmosphere around your life. There are moments when prayer does more than comfort the heart. It changes the atmosphere surrounding a person's life. Not because of empty repetition, not because of religious routine, but because sincere prayer opens the soul to the presence of God in a way fear, anxiety, and emotional darkness cannot resist forever. Something spiritual happens when a wounded heart begins speaking honestly before heaven. Heavy thoughts begin losing strength. Hopelessness begins weakening. The mind slowly becomes calmer. The soul starts remembering what peace feels like. That is why prayer is powerful. Not because it removes every problem instantly, but because it changes what pain has been doing inside you. Your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. There is a peace that logic cannot explain. A peace that enters the middle of emotional storms. A peace that remains present even while life still feels uncertain. A peace that reminds the soul it is no longer fighting alone. That is the kind of peace God releases through prayer. And maybe for a long time your environment has been filled with emotional heaviness, constant stress, fear, negative thoughts, silent sadness. The feeling that darkness has been surrounding your mind day after day. But prayer changes spiritual atmospheres, not only around you, inside you, because when God enters a wounded heart, light begins replacing darkness. Hope begins replacing despair. Strength begins returning to places that felt emotionally dead. Right now, while this prayer continues, something may already be shifting within your spirit. The fear that once controlled your thoughts may no longer feel as powerful. The sadness that followed you for so long may begin losing its grip. This is what happens when heaven touches a soul that has been crying out for restoration. God begins rebuilding peace from the inside out. And in the next part of this prayer, you may experience what happens when a tired heart finally stops resisting and fully surrenders everything into the hands of God. The peace that arrives when you finally surrender everything to God. There comes a moment when the soul becomes too tired to keep carrying everything alone. Too tired of controlling every outcome. Too tired of fighting every battle through fear. Too tired of pretending to be strong while falling apart inside. And strangely, that moment of exhaustion can become the beginning of peace. Because surrender is not losing. Surrender is trusting God more than your fear. For many people, the hardest part is not the pain itself. The hardest part is releasing control. You want answers immediately, you want certainty. You want to know how everything will unfold. But faith often begins exactly where control ends. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." God never asked you to understand everything before trusting Him. Sometimes peace enters the heart only after surrender does. That means releasing the fears you kept replaying in your mind. Releasing the pain you tried carrying alone. Releasing the future you have been desperately trying to control. And maybe this is the moment where your soul finally stops resisting the healing God has been offering you all along. Because as long as fear controls the heart, peace struggles to remain. But when surrender begins, the soul slowly learns how to rest again. Right now, you do not need to have every answer. You do not need to know exactly how life will change. You do not need to pretend you're emotionally strong. You only need to allow God to hold the weight you were never created to carry alone. And something beautiful happens when a person truly surrenders to God. The mind becomes quieter. The heart becomes lighter. The spirit begins breathing again after feeling trapped for so long. What comes next is important. Because before this prayer ends, there is something heaven wants your soul to remember tonight. Before you sleep tonight, listen to what heaven wants you to remember. You are not forgotten. Even after all the pain you carried, God still sees you. Even after the nights you cried silently, God still stayed beside you. Even after the moments when your faith felt weak, heaven never turned away from your soul. The enemy tried to convince you that you were alone. Life tried to convince you that your wounds would never heal. Fear tried to convince you that peace would never return. But none of those voices speak the final truth over your life. God does. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8, says, "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." That promise still stands over your life tonight. No matter how exhausted your heart became, no matter how broken your emotions felt, no matter how long you carried silent battles inside your mind, God never abandoned you. And maybe that is what your soul needed to remember most today. Not that life is perfect, not that pain never existed, but that even in your darkest season, heaven continued walking beside you. Right now, as this prayer comes to an end, take a deep breath and let your heart receive this peace. You do not need to keep carrying yesterday's pain into tomorrow. You do not need to continue living imprisoned by fear, anxiety, or emotional exhaustion. Something inside you has already started changing. The heaviness is beginning to lift. The darkness is losing strength. Hope is breathing again inside your spirit. And tonight, while you sleep, may God restore the parts of your soul that life tried to break. May peace guard your mind. May healing reach your heart. May light enter every place where fear once lived. Because your story is not over. Heaven is still writing chapters your pain has not seen yet.